Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, for some reason, I've got a little cotton mouth, so I've got some mints over here that I may pop in. I have Rezin on. He's the creator, founder of Trauma and Somatics.com. And I just signed up for the course. And so I'm excited to dive in. And so I'll see y'all on the other side of it. And I have a ton of questions that I have for you, but also if we want to flow with it and throw them out, I'm cool with that too. So
I'm happy to have direction from you to start us off. I'm sure we'll meander in all sorts of places.
Kind of like I do in life. Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes I have a plan and I'm like, oh, nope, forget that's out the window. Yeah. So I read your article that you sent me and I notated a couple of the questions just because I felt like I was like, oh, that's a zinger.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we become who we are? What does it cost to survive? And what becomes possible when survival is no longer the only goal? I was just like, ooh, kind of brings tears to my eyes. And then I love that question. Like, how do we become who we are and what does it cost to survive? And it's like, so from your years in trauma work, how do you see identity being shaped more by survival than by choice?
And I think this is a bigger, almost like a culture level or humanity level question. But trauma, maybe we begin by defining terms so that the people listening to us know sort of how I'm oriented to it. Trauma is anything it's an implicit or memory or body-based. I have to laugh because linguistically there's so many little nuances to what we're saying. Trauma is the reaction that comes up in our body to an experience. It's not the thing that happened. And I think as a result of Dr. Gabor Mate becoming really popular, we now have a bit of that shift culturally around how we understand what that word points towards. But for the sake of definition, Gabor says it really well. He says, it's not the head injury, but it's the concussion that might follow. So it's what happens inside of us as a result of what happens to us. Now, how does that shape identity? How does that shape us as humans? It does it in various different ways. Humans have this beautiful adaptive way of interacting with the world, and it's part of our process of developing and surviving. But when trauma occurs, we have these adaptations that form very intelligently to protect us or, to orient us in our environment to what's happening. But where it becomes not supportive anymore is when the circumstances are no longer present, but our body's responding to the world as if they are. Right? And that starts to shape our perception of the world around us. And so now the article that I sent you is in this, I'm really working through an idea about how this shapes humans as a species, as opposed to just us in the United States and Austin, Texas. And the way our bodies respond to life, I believe, is shaped by how culture shapes us and our process of domestication. So our identity forms around or sort of out of the stacking of these experiences through our lives. And we think that's who we are, but it's not really. It's who we may have become, and it's sort of these automatic components of that are just running in the background inside of us.
Does that include like the stories that we tell ourselves about it and like the meaning we assign to it?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. And that's going to be different depending on the cultural context that we live in and the language that we speak. Because certain cultures have different perspectives on the residue, the way that our body interacts or the way we form a sense of identity around these things that have happened. In class yesterday, actually, which you'll get to watch the recording of, somebody was talking about a tribe that they don't have a word for trauma because the way that they interact with things that happen is very different than the way we interact with things that happen to us. They give people a chance to tell their story. They tell it 3 times and then they don't tell it again. But nobody interacts with them when they're telling the story. I thought this was really interesting because they have a culture, of holding the individuals but not holding on to the interpretation of what happened. And there's this kind of empathy that's there, a recognition of how life impacts us. But I don't know anything about this particular tribal culture, so I couldn't really speak much more to it. But, in our culture, our process of domesticating our children is happening through all these layers of what's right, what's appropriate for a human to do or not do. Withhold your emotions, don't express them. When you're scared, clamp down your body, contract yourself, don't express it, right? Don't be too loud, don't dance in the store, right? We have all of these ways that we're forcing humans, little humans, to develop these patterns of contraction or withholding of self. Now, on the other end of the extreme, we have a movement that is encouraging people to just overly express themselves. And that neither of these are the answer. Right? I think that's an attempt at a course correction, but neither of them are really the answer for humans.
I mean, yeah, I think I purged into a book and it was like oversharing, but it also felt like a shedding of the shame at the same time. And I was like, but I didn't have to share it with the world. And what you mentioned about that tribe, what came up for me was the being seen and witnessed and not necessarily like changing. And I think I saw something also that you had said about not having an outcome in mind.
Yeah.
And that helped me a lot, even just like this morning when I was journaling, like releasing or the attachment to the outcome or thinking I've got to get to this or something too.
Yeah. If we understand that we are a process that is in process, in Western culture, we're trained to focus on outcomes. I must get to here and I must prove that I have achieved this, which means that I'm enough. I can garner acceptance from the group if I do X, Y, and Z. But if we let go of that and we understand that we are a process and that we're constantly in flux and changing, it takes away some of the, how would we say it, pressure to perform. That's difficult for us to do in our culture because everything is about be the best, be number one, get the highest grades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's baked into our culture. But that's not how humans are. That's not how we grow. We have this sort of intrinsic movement or pulsation or growth that occurs. The seed of an oak tree doesn't look at a sapling and say, I need to be that. The seed just grows. And at some point, it grows out of the shell, and there's this discomfort of that. And then the roots find a hold in the ground, and then it starts to grow. It's following an intrinsic thing. It's just unfolding. And we put all this pressure on ourselves to be good enough, to be perfect, to be like this or like that or like this or like that, rather than just being with this internal instinct to grow and to form and to develop. And when we have that freedom, there isn't the layer of shame or self-judgment that gets in the way. Our mind is free to imagine, to be creative. And I think that's what we are internally anyway. We want to be creative.
I believe that too.
Yeah, look at us across history. That's all we seem to do.
We're always creating something. It brought tears to my eyes too because the word trust came up. It's like trusting the process. Of the growth, of the evolution, of the and also the chrysalis of the butterfly. But I love the tree example too.
Yeah, what was it Einstein said? If you measure a fish by its ability to fly, it will always be a failure, or some variation of that, right? I'm paraphrasing. And we could hear that, and it can kind of be like one of those things that it's like an Instagrammable clip of something that just gets passed over. But there's real merit to that. If I'm not measuring myself by what you do, then I have the freedom to just follow whatever my instinct is.
And be.
And there's not a measure of good enough. I'm inherently enough because I'm uniquely me. There's no one else out there in the world that I'm in competition with. There's no other business owner. There's no other person. I'm only in competition with myself. And I don't even need to be in that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Marianne Williamson said something to
Oh,
me at
I
a
love
dinner.
her.
I had dinner with her and some
What?
friends. Yeah,
I
last year.
saw her speak in LA once, and I was like, two of the most pivotal books I've read of hers: A Woman's Worth and then A Return to Love.
Yeah.
Oh, but keep going. I've got to hear
Yes.
it.
Well,
I just got excited.
she was saying something, and we were all at dinner and we were talking about something. She said something. She said we're making a distinction between trust and faith, right? And faith is stepping into the path and knowing that no matter what happens on the path, we can find our way. But it's also doing it even though we can't see the end. When you go walking in the woods, you can't see the end of the winding path, but you have faith both in yourself and in whatever is going to happen. And when I'm not comparing myself to somebody else, I can rest in that, and I can follow that inner, whatever it is. We might call it intuition. We might call it the creative force. We could call it spirit. We could, lots of different names for it, but it's an instinct that I believe humans have, and it's not a part of our culture in a major way for us to trust that. We're given messages of comparison and good enoughness and ways to prove our worth and our value. And then we do psychology or emotional work or psychological work or emotional work or somatic work around our own sense of identity or sense of worthiness. But all of that, we're working on the wrong thing. The Eastern mystic has a saying, neti, neti, not that, not that. Right. And we could be chasing this, but it's not that. It's not that at all. It's something else. Like it just keeps us distracted from what could be. And when we can drop all of that and it falls away, something else has room to just emerge naturally on its own.
Just like even saying that is like a relief or, lift of pressure. Because I definitely identify with that email of like, because I had a friend one time and she's like, Kristen, do you ever like stop and just like celebrate a lot of the things that you have accomplished? And, whenever I will say like writing my book was one of the biggest acts of self-love and so illuminating. I was like, oh my God, this is why I made this decision or how this influenced that. And then also, I kind of forgot where I was going with that. Oh, the not enough stuff. It was like, okay, I was like, what next?
Yeah.
Like, I thought, the elation period, and then I felt like I had postpartum after it was out in the world.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, now what? And then just always like the striving and trying to earn my worth or pride in my dad or in my parents or something.
Yeah. And do we hold the belief that it's okay for there to be a contraction following an expansion, that's actually part of the next expansion? And what I'm talking about is a rhythm of pulsation that's a part of life everywhere. It is intrinsically built into life. Built might be the wrong word. It's a part of how life grows. There's a rhythm to waves.
And then like a heartbeat.
A heartbeat is a rhythm. The vascular system has a rhythm. There's a pulsation. There's a contraction and then a relaxation, right? Everything in the body is rhythmically pulsing. And when trees grow, and you look at it in time lapse, it's pulsing. Up, down, up, down. It's the same with a plant. A flower, when it goes to bloom, it's open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close. I mean, you have to really speed up a time lapse to see these patterns, but they're there, right? And so if we trust that, then it's not bad or wrong that we have a contraction.
There's no judgment around it.
No judgment. We can rest in it, and the contraction period lasts a little shorter, maybe. But we trust it. I'm just in part of the thing that is life, right? And the not being wrong, that like holding that belief structure or the context around it helps us to be in it in a different way. I don't have to get out of this. This isn't bad. I haven't done anything wrong, right? But to your point, right, we will often do things. The motivation, we don't realize the motivation is for us to be seen, to be worthy, to have enough, right? And that's the illusion of it.
Oh yeah, I have a story about that. I was working on something or writing, and my dad I wanted to get his stories out of him one way or another. So I gave him this book, and I was like, well, it's easier for me to write about my emotions and feelings sometimes. So I'm going to let him just like go through it. And I was working on a course like several months ago. And I was, because I've been wanting his pride and all that stuff. And I went to one of the questions was like, Dad, what are you the most proud of? And he had written, that would be the day you were born. And like, or the day you and your brother were born. And I was like, oh, fuck. I've been working towards something that I've had since birth.
Oof.
And I was like, just like release. And I'm like, wow. And like, just also such a gift, even beyond his passing,
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, it just really landed with me. And I wrote down like attachment at some point whenever you're talking about it. I don't know if that's like the attachment wounds that create those patterns, or I don't know, maybe I'll just let you riff on that. I don't even have a formulated question right now.
Well, I think, so in our process of development as human beings, we go through stages. The fertilization of an egg, the embryological, division is called, I think it's called mitosis, cellular division, that's occurring, right? So we have these phases of fetal development, then we have phases of brain development and phases of personality development, right? So something that's become really popular over the past 5 years is talking about the nervous system. I mean, lots of people are talking about the nervous system, which is great. Well, lots of people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I'm glad you're
here. Which is okay, but at least we're talking about it. And that is a beautiful thing. Now, the nervous system is just one small component of our physiology. And it's one small component of what shapes the way we interact with the world. It's also shaped by the way that we receive love or care from the people closest to us. Are we nurtured? Dr. Bruce Perry wrote a book called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. Phenomenal book. He talks about his model that he created called the neurosequential model. It's a therapeutic process that he developed for working with children who've experienced extreme or extraordinary trauma. And the book is about his findings working with people, but it comes down to nurturing. So if during a certain phase of development, I don't get mirrored back to me the expressions that I make, the sounds that I make, the emotionality that I'm experiencing, my brain doesn't develop the ability to mirror somebody else's emotional state. Right? So there's a developmental piece. I also don't receive nurturing. So I develop strategies. I'm just using one example. I develop strategies to what we would call self-soothe, but it's really to manage the overwhelm inside the body during that process of development. So what we call attachment is a form of adaptive relational skills that are developed. And it all comes back to survival. Right? So if I'm in distress as an infant and I cry, and nobody is attuned enough to notice what I need when I don't have language, and all I really need is either to be held or to be fed, right? And if that's missed, I develop strategies that might look like getting louder and screaming more, but it also might look like shutting down. It might be that I learned that if I reach out for support or ask for support, no one will be there. So I develop a character structure that is independent, that is strong, that holds it all, that doesn't ever ask for help because help's not going to be there.
You calling me out right now?
Probably a lot of people that might feel called out, right?
I know, but I'm teasing. But
No, but it's true though, right? It's like we form this, and so what happens, we develop what we would call avoidant attachment style. That's just a strategy. It says, well, I have to become numb to the too muchness that's happening inside. And so I learn to contract my muscular system or the various different diaphragms in my body to hold back the pulsatory flow of life, but also to hold in emotionality maybe, or emotionality just bubbles up and goes too much, right? And it could be an oscillation between those two things. But I learned that I have to do it independently. So I retreat away from others And I think, well, yeah, it's just safer. I don't need connection. Like, nobody's going to be there. Maybe I don't even have the thought. This is just how I am. I'm strong. I'm independent. I'm work hard. Look at everything I could do, right? It becomes a part of the way we structure our sense of self. And that's attachment. It forms in this interplay between us and other. I'm just giving an example of, maybe the avoidant attachment style or the disorganized, we
Yeah.
might call, which is a
Oh, yeah.
blended state.
I would love another example of like
Mm-hmm.
maybe that anxious or
Sure.
whatever. I don't know if I've heard disorganized, I've heard fearful, avoidant. I don't really,
Yeah, there's subcategories
yeah.
too.
I'm like, because
Yeah.
there's definitely been times where I've felt like that anxiousness and feeling. I'm like, oh my God, he hasn't texted back. I'm noticing a pattern switch or blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then there's definitely been like the hyper independent, like I've got my Nikes on and I'm running.
Yep. Yep. And usually that forms because we have inconsistent messages from our parents. Maybe we have one parent that's really intensely like really in our world. But maybe the other one is not. And we have to work really hard to be noticed. Or maybe one of them is just really involved and then absent completely. If a parent drank a lot of alcohol or used substances, there'd be a really confusing message that we'd be getting from them, because sometimes they'd be present and they'd be attuned to us, and sometimes they would be vacant and not there. Well, what we have to do is we have to become really, really good at noticing their body language, their emotional state, and be very vigilant, right? So that we can, okay, mom or dad is not here, might be really easily triggered. I need to be small, or I need to be compliant, right? Oh, they're really available. I need to reach in now and I need to get close while I can. And this is an example. And that forms what we call the disorganized style, which is just essentially saying we learn to use both at different times, and we become incredibly good at reading people. Now, the anxious just cries. Right. And they learn that by getting louder, they get the attention they need. So that becomes the strategy. Now, we culturally will often label that as clingy or manipulative. Right? But it's not. It's an instinct pattern. The child's brain is not developed enough to be manipulative.
Yeah.
It's just discovering this is what gets me attention. Attention is survival. And we are either attached or not.
What came up is like that longing for love when people like wanting to cling, or like, to me, that's like yearning for it. I'm like, oh, please love me or hold me or something along those lines.
In pop psychology, we all have heard about the 4 styles, right? Anxious, avoidant, secure, disorganized. Excuse me. And these are just 4 labels. What we don't hear, if we just take those 3, what we don't hear is that each of them is a result of a form of dysregulation that's happening inside, and the person's body is responding. It uses different strategies in response to the distress. So the person that's anxious reaches and needs contact in order to feel settled. The person who's avoidant cuts themselves off from feeling. And they do that and they withdraw so that they can feel settled. Connection is too much. The person that's disorganized does one or the other depending on the individual that they're with. But underneath, for all of these people, it's a distress that they're feeling because of some sort of interpersonal relational dynamic that's taking place. And if we understand that, then it kind of levels the playing field. It's like we don't label avoidant as bad. We don't label anxious as bad.
Yeah, I see a lot of that on, I was chatting with someone about mother and father wounds last week, and she's like, well, I love that you mentioned that even in those avoidant time periods, that you still had that longing for love, because there's a lot of like, oh, they're awful or like heartless or something. But to me, it's like visualizing them in a way as little kids.
That's it.
Like we're all like little kids, like walking around in a way. And then what came up for me too is like the nervous system piece and the settling of that to maybe what I guess become secure, or instead of using those adaptations.
Well, we don't try to go at getting rid of them right away, but Dr. Diane Poole Heller says we can have what's called earned secure. which what that means is over time, our body relearns or repatterns its response to distress. So let's just say that I have more of an anxious style. When I sense that something is happening interpersonally with me and someone else, I might become more vigilant and need or reach for connection or feel really spun out when something's going on. Over time, I learned to be with those feelings without reaching out as intensely, and I learn the skill of emotional regulation. We still need connection. We still need relationship. Like the myth of the independent lone warrior is just a myth.
Yeah, I realize I
So
gotta have
toxic.
people on my island.
Yes.
I can choose who I want on my
Yeah,
my little
sure.
independent island.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, and then also like just you think you do the work or the play or whatever it is, and then you get into a relationship and it's like, oh fuck, I gotta test all of this out.
Yeah. So true.
Because I recently happened to me where I was like, there's a piece of me that's had my Nikes on my entire life.
Yeah.
I really want to put my slippers on and stay with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now that I'm feeling a lot of things.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll be a thing that takes the right partner who's a yes to being in the exploration together. Right. And to maybe learning a new way of interacting with you that might not be their dominant strategy. But as we know our patterns and we become conscious of them, it doesn't mean that we can just all of a sudden change them because we're conscious of it. But at least it gives us enough information that we can set up conditions to have new experiences of the rupture and the repair. Because effectively what happens is when one person's body senses or sends the signal that there's been some sort of rupture relationally, then our body does for us. It makes the choice for us at the level of the brainstem or the amygdala. It says danger, threat, and then this is our strategy. Inside Out is a great movie. It's like if we had
trying to doll it up in my memory.
The one with all the emotions that live inside the brain. It's a cartoon.
Oh, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Like Inside
It's
Out.
great. I think it's a Pixar movie.
I mean, I'll totally, yeah.
So it's great because there's like this control center and all the emotions are in the control center and they take turns making the choices for the little kid. Well, our body's like that in a way. We're personifying the instinct patterns in that movie. But if we just say, well, we have these instincts. Okay, I learned, cry now, don't cry here, get big here, don't get big here, run after, leave, whatever it might be, right? And then our body makes a choice for us. It's a non-conscious choice, right? Instinct. Right? It's like if I bump my elbow, my arm flails out.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's exactly the same. And we've become almost obsessed with how our mind shapes things, where the dominant cultural belief system is that the mind is what controls the body. But that's just not true. The body sends signals to the brain, and then the brain interprets them, and then the mind has a thought about it.
Is that how you can like repeat affirmations for all the time you want? And
Exactly.
It's like, why?
Why is this not helping?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Like, I know that for some, and I don't know much about this or not, so I'm going to lean on you, obviously. Top to bottom or bottom to top.
Top down, bottom up.
Yeah. Yeah. That.
That's the
Yeah.
term that's often used. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're talking about with that is, are we working at the level of maybe the brainstem or our instincts, the sensory experience in our body? Or are we working, biasing the thoughts? So top down would be thinking process changes the physiology. Bottom up would be physiology changes thinking process. Dr. Deb Dana said, and it was her synthesizing Dr. Porges's work, story follows state. And what that means is our interpretation of the world is shaped by the way our body feels. It's shaped by the signals that our body gives us. So story follows state, Dr. Deb Dana. And this explains a lot in the world. If we just take where we are right now. What is it? Today is the 4th of February in 2026. And we take a little snapshot and look at what's happening just in our country, but in the world. We could extend further. We can say, well, there are a lot of really scared people who don't know that they're scared, who have a lot of beliefs about things because of the information, the sensory input that they're taking in. And they're responding in a way that makes complete sense given the context that they're in and the limited amount of information that their body has about what's happening. Mm. And then we formulate ideas and beliefs, and then we fight with each other about them. But what we miss is that underneath all of that, we've got scared humans behaving instinctively in a way that completely makes sense.
Yeah, and if I was raised how they were or exposed to the certain same information, like who's to say that I wouldn't believe like that?
Exactly. That's right.
Like,
yep.
So it's like, how can we have a little bit more compassion? I also love this story to, fall state thing, and it brought up language again. And I wanted to touch on this because it reminds me of something that you said at the ACT conference that I was like, oh shit, that hit. And it was about language and use in, like, I guess, practitioner settings as far as the word safe.
Yeah.
And I think what you said, and you can, edit me, was like something along the lines of trauma, because trauma happens a lot of times with people who should have been safe or were supposed to be safe. And I was like, ah!
Yeah. And it often, in a relational trauma setting, there are a lot of examples where trauma occurs. The act of some sort of violence or boundary rupture comes from somebody that should be trustworthy, right? It could be a family member, extended family, somebody close to the family. Oftentimes abuse happens in that way. It's somebody that's close enough. It's a person that should be safe, right? Let's say we get punished with violence from one of our parents. That person is the safest person in the world, but also the most dangerous. And that becomes confusing. So if I were to say, this is a safe space here, we can talk about whatever. The instinct inside is to say, well, I might not actually trust you as much now because I don't know that it's a safe space. You're saying these words, but maybe at some point in my life, somebody told me it was also safe, but it wasn't. So I omit that from my vocabulary and I allow that to emerge naturally or not. And I don't make it right or wrong either way.
I like that. Ever since you said that, I started to use like all of you is welcome versus safe, and telling my friends or other, body workers, I'm like, maybe try to edit out safe if you can, because I mean, that was my experience anyway. So I was always like, that's why I was like, watery eyes.
Well, and I'll add another layer of nuance to that, right?
Yeah.
It's good for us to have these North Stars, right? The all of you really is welcome. And how do I convey that without using any words? What do I need to do inside myself or how I interact with you so that you really feel that way without me having to say a word about it? There are certain things, or there's a certain way that I can be with you that helps that to naturally unfold. And when I really understand what it takes on the inside of me, the byproduct of that is for somebody that I sit with to say, God, I feel so safe here. Or, God, I feel like I really belong. Like I could just be myself. Like, yeah. But I'm not trying. In the beginning, I tried.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a story that Alan Watts tells about me too. I think I discovered him in like 2000 and I've been consuming it since.
I love the ones like with the, no, that might be Ram Dass, but the different songs or the difference we have the app.
Yeah.
And then sometimes on Insight Timer, some of his quotes will pop up and I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So he tells a story about, I think it's a Zen master. He says, the Zen master gives a koan, which is like a question to live, but it's also often an impossible task. And the reason that the master gives the student the impossible task is because who you become while you're attempting to commit this impossible task makes you into the person that does it automatically. So he says, Watts tells the story, and I'm paraphrasing, the master says, go out and commit a genuine act. And that's a trap, because to commit a genuine act, you can't do it on purpose.
Can't
right?
think it out or plot it or plan
Can't
it.
plan it. You can't, and the student will go out into the world and say, Master, I've completed these. I've done it. And he says, no, you haven't. You did it on purpose. A genuine act happens naturally. The thing that's left out in that is that in order to commit a genuine act, you have to become the one who does that automatically. To become the one that does it automatically, you actually have to go and practice. So part of the equation is going out and doing it on purpose and then giving up eventually. It's like, oh, I don't need to do this on purpose. And then it starts to become you. So it happens through you naturally as a byproduct of what you've become along the way. So practice and repetition is just as important as not trying anymore. Right? I play the guitar. I never learned rudiments. I didn't study the instrument the way that I studied working with humans. But I had a natural gift for it, and I just sort of muddled my way through it and found my way. There's certain basics that I learned. I learned how to make chords. I learned what the strings were called. I don't think about chords anymore. I don't think about what the strings are anymore. I don't think about the patterns that I play anymore. They happen through me now. But if we want to acquire mastery of something, it takes that dedicated, focused effort of practicing a thing so that we can let it go and let it emerge naturally from within us. So it's a stage we can't avoid the stage.
Like have a formula for it? Because I was going to ask that. Like, are there any tips or ways or, that you would recommend to people or listeners or me? And then,
well, I think empathy is one for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But self-awareness is another, right? And I mean self-awareness in a number of layers. So am I aware of my posture right now? Am I noticing my breathing right now? Am I noticing my muscles, right? Can I become aware of my sensations? Am I aware of the quality of how what I say impacts you? Can I let that in, right? And if I'm with myself, I can let myself be touched by your experience, right? And then I can also impact your experience. Right? So there are these layers of developing that sensitivity both to the world and to ourselves. And so Anthony DeMello has a lecture. It was turned into a book called Awareness. It's just the transcript, so I prefer listening to his lecture. But and I could give this as a gift to the listeners. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Sweet, that'd be great.
It's 8.5 hours long.
Cool.
It's amazing. I've probably listened to it 150 times at this point. It's
sweet.
But he says, let me get back to where my thread is. It's gone.
Well, it'll come back if it's meant to be coming back.
Well, awareness is a component. I got it. So sensitivity to the world, when we are sensitive both to ourselves and to others, what happens is it becomes less possible for me to commit an act of cruelty. Because if I'm cruel to you, I'm also cruel to me. And so the more sensitive we become to ourselves and the world, the less harmful we are to the world and to ourselves. And I believe that we are so dissociated from both our bodies and the natural environment. And that's how we can treat the world the way we do and treat each other the way we do. But that's one of those greatest skills. So to become a really good is the wrong word here, sensitive or empathetic individual that has an impact on everyone that they're in connection with, that layer or level of sensitivity is necessary.
Beautiful. I was going to ask about hypersensitivity.
Right. Well, so that's an overcompensation pattern. Right. So early in life, at some point, that sensitivity was really necessary. We call highly sensitive people, right?
Yeah,
the HSP.
Yeah, HSP. Yeah.
There's this whole thing about it. Well, yeah, that's hypervigilance. Right. So I might be really good at noticing the changes in your body language or emotional state. And my way of making sure that I stay safe is to be impacted in enormous ways by you, because that keeps me attuned to the subtlest of subtle changes in your state. Right. So for a person that's labeling themselves as highly sensitive, One, that's a superpower. Usually they make incredible helping professionals, and attuned and empathetic individuals. But the task is to learn how to have strong boundaries, is to build a sense of less permeability to what's coming in. And when we do that, we can exist in the world without the world destroying us or causing us to feel all kinds of ways, right? Well, then I don't have to demand that you treat me differently anymore. I now have the resilience and flexibility to be treated in whatever way. Well, that comes from strengthening the absence of a boundary between me and the world.
So is there anything you want to share in like building those boundaries, or there's something else that came up, but if it comes back, I'll let you know.
Building boundaries. Well,
because I feel like, I have some that are more fixed and then some that are more fluid, or like as I evolve, maybe some things shift or change. I mean, but way back when I was like, what's a boundary?
Yeah. If it's not modeled to us,
yeah,
it's rather difficult for us to know how to do it. I think I was pausing because I was thinking, well, from us, like, depending on where we start, let's say we start with not really knowing, we have to become aware that we're letting everything in. So we start wherever we are. Let's say we're starting there. I'm flooded. It's too much. How do I disconnect and reconnect? Right. So having permission, like where we started with this permission to be wherever we are, an absence of judgment or shame or labeling where we are as bad or wrong, and approaching it as if it were building skills.
I like that.
Yeah. So if I hired a personal trainer, which I don't work with a personal trainer, and I honestly don't train a lot. So if I decided to do that, there's going to be a long learning curve on certain things, certain movements I just don't do on a regular basis. Others I do. So I'm going to have a lot of competency with some things and almost none with others. Well, I don't have the expectation that working with that personal trainer is going to instantly get me results. And I don't judge myself necessarily for not having the coordination to do certain things. Let's say I want to take on martial arts. Like, I want to do backflips. I want to do front flips. I want to do some gymnastic activities.
Be a black belt and
I want to be a black belt. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to expect to get there in a year. Yeah. I'm going to know that it's going to require so much failure, and it's going to require consistency. But at first, I have to figure out where my competency is and where it's not. And so there are going to be activities that I do. They're going to help me to become aware of what I'm good at and what I'm not. And then I can focus on developing the micro skills necessary. Well, it's the same with anything because the human is the consistent piece. So exercise or martial arts are great analogies for developing the skill emotionally or relationally. So there are micro skills that we need to learn along the way. One of those micro skills is emotional regulation, the flexibility to be impacted by something without it taking us over. Right. And there are various ways we can learn those skills. We can work with a skilled practitioner that can help us to develop little micro skills for self-regulation, but also having a safe enough other helps us to have a person to ping to and develop the skill. As children, we don't develop the skill on our own. We develop it in the presence of another who's not dysregulated by our dysregulation. So let's say I start crying. Well, if no one sat with you while you were crying, you might get really uncomfortable that I started crying. You might start squirming and not know what to do, right? But if you had a person that sat with you and was not scared, was not upset in any way that you were upset, you will know exactly how to be with me. You'll just sit with me. You're not going to tell me it's okay, right? You're just going to be with me. And that's one of the things Levine said in his book, In an Unspoken Voice. He said, trauma is what happens in the absence of an empathetic witness. Well, the empathetic witness is a person that isn't scared because we're scared, isn't upset because we're upset. They're calm. They're with us, and our body learns, oh, it's okay for me to be in this state. It's not going to hurt me. And then what happens is the body self-regulates. Our bodies know what to do. We just often get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wrote
exactly.
down, like emotional regulation, soothing. And it reminds me of a story of my puppy because when I'm like initiation with my puppy,
Oh, yeah.
but I've heard, like a puppy is like a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know like whenever he was doing something, I was like, you're supposed to be my like emotional support animal. You're causing me more anxiety. But I remember at one point, I don't forget what he was doing, but I was like, like, how do I, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go take a bath and I'm going to chill myself the fuck out and like come back. I'm going to get out of this bathtub a different human or a different woman, like, and go into the living room and sit and chill. And I'll be down if he does not just like sit next to me and was so much more calm. And I was like, oh, okay. And those moments, I giggle at it now too, because like some of those moments when I'm like, he's just so like anxious or I'm like, how am I feeling right now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dogs are really, really attuned to our emotional state. Highly attuned. When we're upset, they might bring us toys. They might try to get us to play because for them, that helps them.
Right?
And they might express the anxiety for us.
Yeah.
They might start to behave the way we're feeling. That doesn't always make us feel better.
No.
Most of the time we're like, quit being that way.
Yeah. But looking at it now as like him wanting to play or like what worked for him, it just like brings tears to my eyes for my little Boudreaux.
Do you have a little dog or big dog?
Well, he's what now, like a little over a year. He's 20-something pounds, Frenchie.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Frenchie. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just pick him up for the warmth, and I'm like, so I guess we co-regulate together sometimes, but it's awesome. And I want to see like what else. Okay, I'll go. Oh shit. The time flew by. I love it when that happens. We were in flow.
Yeah, we are.
Well, I'll give you the space to drop anything you want. And then I have another little lightning round if we want to play around with it.
Cool. Well, if anybody's interested in finding me, I've got actually a number of places on social media. So there's my Substack account, which is where I really think through and write long form, working through the ideas as I'm writing a book. And Instagram at Trauma and Somatics, and that's a place where we share about our trainings and clips of me teaching and some of the rest of the team teaching. We have a membership that's pretty inexpensive. It's $57 a month if you want to do monthly, or it's $470 for the year. It's a container where we're building it out. It's so much value. The team keeps saying, you need to charge more, you need to charge more. And I keep saying, I don't want to charge more. I want it to be a place that's not expensive for people to come be with us. So 4 times a month, it was 2 last year, but 4 times a month, we get together for 2 hours and we practice somatics. So it's almost like a dojo. We have guest presenters come in from all over the world. The thing that makes it unique is that every time we gather, it's experiential. Right? So we're not learning about somatic practices, although there is some learning interwoven. We're doing them together. And we're building a culture and a community together. And it's amazing how deep we go.
That's cool. And I imagine I get visions of the ripples that creates in like other people's lives too.
Yeah. Some of them are students. Some of them aren't students. And it doesn't really matter. We just come together. And we've had some pretty cool people come in so far. And this year we're having a lot more.
Sweet. Okay. I might check that out as well.
Yeah.
But I'll link all of the stuff in the show notes.
Yeah.
Too,
and then we have a free community that we just launched this week. We did a soft launch to our folks. It's open to the world. You can find it at traumaandsomatics.com. But then we have trainings. So we have the Trauma and Somatics training, which you just joined, and then we have our Attachment and Somatics training. Trauma and Somatics is a really good beginning point, but it doesn't always have to be for beginners. We go through, in a really deep way, trauma physiology. We teach about the nervous system. We teach about somatic practices and how to use this attuned state to work with people, to support them, when to move them towards activation or away from activation, how to stabilize and contain different things. And it's what we call a trauma-informed training. So you're learning to live in a way that's trauma-informed, but we're not teaching you how to protect people's feelings. We're teaching you how to be empathetic and attuned to people, and how to build capacity, because that's really ultimately what's necessary with trauma physiology. We don't teach people how to resolve trauma because that would take way more in-depth training, but how to work with a person who has it. Over 70% of humanity has trauma, has experienced a traumatic event as how the research goes. But I don't know anyone that's been a part of that research study.
Yeah, when I'm like, I think it's more and a higher number.
Yeah.
Like,
So I believe it's somewhere around 7.9 billion people. And if I had to label it, it's probably 90-some% of humanity. And it might be more, but there are some people that haven't had a lot of adversity in that way. Now, what that tells me is that we are traumatized as a species and we really need the support. So coming into trauma and somatics, practitioners learn how to be with and expect these things, but they also learn how to observe it in the body and know what to do when it shows up. And then attachment and somatics goes really deep into the forming and the arc of humans.
Oh, cool.
So we're doing more than attachment
I'm
work.
gonna do that next.
We're doing
Yeah.
we're doing procedural work. We're working with early reflexes. We link attachment patterns to body shape, posture, characterology, nervous system states. And then we teach you what to do with all of that. And so there's a library of over, I think it's like 88 pages of somatic practices where we give you scripts and outlines and exact things to do with your clients. It's so much deeper. And I co-facilitate that with my mother, and she's the co-creator of it, and she's a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So those are the ways people can work. And I do one-on-one work with individuals, not a lot of them. And that's a different demographic of people that I often work with. They're usually high performers or high achievers in some way and successful already in their lives.
Beautiful. I love the work that you're doing. I'm like, maybe I'll just get a couple of these like lightning rounds once. And then let's see. Trauma in one sentence.
Trauma in one sentence. A reflex that forms out of a too much experience.
And then is procrastination laziness or protection?
I like that.
I saw it on your profile.
Yeah.
And I was like, screenshot.
Protection for sure. Yeah. Protection for sure. Yeah. Well, there's so many things I could say about procrastination. Maybe we'll do another journey together.
I love that. Yeah. But I was like, no, now I call myself sometimes a pressure performer.
There you go.
When I'm like, if I'm beating myself up about, because I know once I have that deadline, I'm like,
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything if I want to touch on. Oh, well, I mean, a word or phrase you wish facilitators would stop using immediately.
Oh, there are a couple of those.
Okay.
I'll give you a couple. This is a safe space. That would be one I wish they'd stop using. You got to feel it to heal it. Release trauma. There's no such thing.
Oh, shit. Wow. That's all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Catharsis is the answer. You got to scream or get loud in order to heal.
Yeah,
no,
rage.
That's not what we do. It's actually not helpful. It's not useful. It can be re-traumatizing.
What? Oh, wow. Good to know.
Neuroscience shows us all of this.
After I led a rage ritual. but moving forward, right?
I mean, it can be an experience that can be meaningful for us to do these things, but it doesn't heal trauma.
Yeah.
And that's the subtle distinction. People can sometimes misunderstand and think that I'm not for big expressions sometimes. I'm definitely for it. I think there's a time and a place for us to express and to be big and to, to get in touch with our emotions. Like we've been cut off from them. But does it cause healing? No. Sometimes if it's not done by somebody who's really skilled at observing the person's state, what we end up is dissociated, overwhelmed, performing to be good enough for the facilitator, and then crashing or feeling like crap afterwards. It might cause a person to relive their trauma, and that doesn't help.
Cool. I think that's all I've got.
Amazing.
Man, this has been dope. I love having you on. I mean, I love when it's just so in flow, and then I'm like, oh, time? Really? Damn. And I'll put everything in the show notes, and this has been great. And you totally have that. I'm like, I just feel so settled just even talking to you. I'm like, even going into my next interview or chat or conversation. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I'll put a couple of freebies and send you some links for some stuff for those of you that are listening.
Sweet. I love that. I love that it's accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Sweet.